Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all our passionate educators joining us today from across India and beyond. As we begin today, we carry forward the spirit that has guided CPD 2025-26 throughout the year, one represented by Mrs. Tara, our super ma'am. She stands for curiosity, resilience, and the belief that learning never stands still, just as teaching never does. Today, we come together for the final sessions of S. Chand's Continuous Professional Development Program for the year 2025-26. Sessions that bring together reflection, relevance, and readiness for what lies ahead. CPD at S. Chand is a living learning ecosystem evolving every year to meet the realities of today's classrooms. This year's theme, Badalti Shiksha, Badalti Shikshak, has shaped every conversation, reinforcing the role of teachers as drivers of change. I'm Tanisha Tyagi, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's sessions, thoughtfully designed to strengthen practice and set the direction for what's ahead. We begin this afternoon with our first session titled Scaffolding Techniques for Deeper Learning. And it is my absolute honor to introduce our speaker, Ms. Deepti Chawla. Ms. Chawla is an experienced English teacher and a curriculum developer with the Delhi Board of School Education. She has held roles such as TGT English mentor teacher and guest faculty at Delhi University. With advanced degree in TESOL and gender studies, she has collaborated with institutions like NCERT, SCERT, and the University of Delhi. A Fulbright grant recipient and published researcher, Ms. Chawla is currently pursuing an MSc in TESOL at the University of Stirling, Scotland. We are truly privileged to have her with us today. And here's a little extra treat for all the engaged learners. After today's second and last session, we will be hosting a quiz. So stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 5,000 and celebrate your learning journey with us. But before we dive into the session, here are a few quick housekeeping rules to help you make the most of this experience. Participants will be muted throughout the entire session. Please have a pen and paper ready to jot down important information. The chat box will be enabled during the Q&A round and as needed by the speaker. To receive your e-certificates, please fill out the feedback form that will be sent to your registered email IDs on Monday. The quiz link will be shared with you after the final session ends, that is after 5:30 p.m. Participate in the quiz and stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 5,000. And yes, all sessions are streaming live on YouTube, so you can revisit them at your convenience before attempting the quiz. So without further delay, let's get started. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. I'll just share my screen. So, good evening, everyone. I hope that today we have a meaningful engagement and we have a great session this evening. It's a Saturday, and many of you who've joined definitely seem to be lifelong learners and committed to be better as teachers, as facilitators. And I think it aligns with this topic of our session today, which is scaffolding techniques for deeper learning. And the fact that we are all together as part of one teaching community, I think this is a great step towards understanding the concept itself because um, the better we engage and seek help, and sometimes we attend seminars and sessions where we feel that many of the talk that is happening, and obviously it's going to be more one way. I will be talking for a longer period of time, quite a longish period of time. And I do understand that it is very difficult for a person to listen to another person for a long time. So, respecting all of that, I hope that you have a few takeaways and a couple of strategies that you'll be able to implement in the classroom from this session. Uh, and To be very honest, when we listen to a lot of input, because it's a 1 hour input, I would request all of you to be present and to be able to discern what is it that you would want to take away from this session. uh, Doing too much happens, doing too much eventually leads to nothing happening, but careful planning and that power of distinguishing what will be more useful for me goes a long way in redesigning your classroom, your pedagogy, and redesigning the learning experiences of your children. So anyway, enough context setting. So uh, I would like all of you to reflect on something, as students, as learners, or even as teachers, we all learn different skills at different times in life. I want you to reflect on when you needed support to learn something new, like learning to cycle, or driving, or teaching a new grade. uh, what support did you need? Can you please type in the chat box what kind of support you required when you were learning to, let's say, bicycle? Just type in the chat box. Can you all type in the chat box? Tanisha, that's possible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now they can.
Okay, okay. I would request all of you to think of what kind of support you needed when you started learning to bicycle steps, okay? Proper guidance, someone to guide. What kind of guidance? Can you specify what balance? Okay, to hold. Okay, so somebody to hold, all right? Balancing, road safety support, needed help to balance, communication, control, to learn to control, moral support also. All right, great responses, step by step, guiding by proper guidance and appreciation, moral support, balance. So see, there is so much of similarity of responses that you needed to you needed support to balance and to um, you needed help with respect to your emotional management. And this is exactly what scaffolding is. You did not want anyone to ride the bicycle for you. You needed someone to keep you steady, to hold you there, to encourage you, to provide that moral support which would have helped you to be confident enough to take the bicycle on the road. So now let's look at what is bicycle. uh, Let us look at what is scaffolding. Sorry, let us look at what is scaffolding in detail, right? Okay, so in our classroom context, scaffolding is more of a temporary instructional support. Uh, the focus over here is instructional support and temporary, and I'll decode this for you. By temporary we mean that if children are getting stuck on a particular concept, you provide support for a limited period of time. It cannot be indefinite period, and you will be the best judge of for how long that support will be provided. And apart from that, how that definite period, it's instructional support. So often what we understand by scaffolding is that we keep on explaining the same thing over and over and over again, but often scaffolding happens best when we change the way we are explaining or the medium through which we are explaining. So if it is more about a lecture, probably switching to a short audio visual support is beneficial to the students, or it could be experiencing something hands on, or it could also be observing something in real life. So that sort of summarizes temporary instructional support for you. Then it helps students do what they cannot yet do alone. Again, this is important. So I may ask children, for example, to write a paragraph on, let's say, if it's grade 7 or grade 8, uh, the use of mobile phones is limiting my creativity. So if that's the topic, children will have a fair idea, and they would be actually struggling with kind of a conflicting kind of a understanding, because social media to them is also a instrument of power, which they feel that, it's kind of within their agency, right? But when they're trying to write, they will write all kinds of things. When you look at some of the paragraphs, now what would happen is that you will get different varied types and styles of writing. Now obviously you want the child to be able to produce a, a more of a one argument supporting paragraph. So you may have to, after they write, then you provide that support, and then ask them to rewrite it. Now that's what scaffolding is. Scaffolding is not presenting them with a model answer, that this is what this paragraph is going to look like, and either they reproduce the same thing that you've given them, or they try to, just work around it a little bit. So that's not what is encouraged. What is encouraged is that you see what kind of support is required. Is it in the format? Is it in organizing the argument? Is it in ensuring that children are using coherent supporting arguments and evidences? So that's very important. That's how you tell them that, this is how. Is my screen visible? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Then scaffolding also means that support is planned and then it is removed gradually. um, you cannot go on providing, like I said, it's temporary instructional support, and how you remove gradually is also important. One thing is, it cannot be indefinite, but how you remove it, it's not like you're providing so much one day and then you suddenly take it off, because it's for a definite period of time. It's about providing support in a manner that you gradually take it away. So for example, I am sure when you started learning bicycle, there were supporting tires on the sides. They were removed, somebody held you from behind. Gradually that was also removed. So with all your subjects disciplines also, the support has to be planned in a way that it can be removed gradually, stepwise. So for example, I may expect my children to be able to produce a written text. I'm giving you more examples from languages because it is very easy to understand and quickly absorb. The idea is asking them to be able to read and comprehend, right? But we also know that children are not yet ready to do that comprehension. So to be able to now, if I want the children to be able to understand the overall theme also, and to identify specific arguments also, then probably what I can do is, and I'm talking of grade 4 5, any grade above grade 4, so probably what you can do is, you can give them which paragraph to look for a particular question. Now that is scaffolding. Gradually you remove that, rather than providing the context or the paragraph number for the reading comprehension exercise, you take that away and then leave them to eventually address the entire passage on their own. Because eventually, after these children pass out of school, they will be taking a lot of competitive exams. They will be taking a lot of career related exams, and most of these exams do expect them to do a quick reading comprehension. So this is how you remove that support. But what is interesting is that when you provide that support, you also bring it to their notice that this is how you're providing them that support. That is very important. uh, and when you remove that, they would already be in that familiar space. Okay, every question is based on a particular passage, so first I need to identify which question and which passage are connected, so that I can focus more on that. These are certain ways that you can remove a scaffolding. And it is also important to understand that if you hold a child's hand forever, they never learn to cross, it's more of a quote. So unless you let them go, let them do, let them make few mistakes, because mistakes are always good, let them stumble, fall, it will be more easier for them to sort of um, you know learn better. Okay, so now let's understand why it matters. Now, if you see that there are three zones in which children learn, irrespective of the fact how well we are teaching them. So the first zone is independence zone, where students can actually do by themselves without any teacher intervention. And there are many students who are actually at a level, especially I'm talking of grade 6, 7, 8, where you feel that the concept that we are teaching it, some of the children are already there at that level, and they can manage independently. Then there are certain students who are working in the frustration zone, and there are many children also in general, also not just a few children, but the frustration zone is where concepts that are currently too complex, even with scaffolding, even if you're providing the support, children may not be able to do it. And then there is this learning zone where learning happens in between. So basically what we're trying to say is that there are certain things children can do independently, then there are certain things children cannot do even with the support you provide. So learning, where is learning happening? It's happening in these two zones, between these two zones, with which is also called zone of proximal development, as coined by Vygotsky, where students manage independence with some support. So they already know, but they need some support to be able to reach and arrive at perfection, or to be able to master that skill, or to be able to perform in that particular task. They need some push, some level of support from your side. So you may have explained the concept of, let's say, multiplication, but children are not able to do complex multiplication. uh, Going further down in terms of grade levels, so for children, they have understood, they have mastered the concept of addition, they do it in UKG grade 1, right? But to be able to do sums with carryover, they find it very, very difficult. So how do you provide that kind of support, you know that support where they can do those carryover problems, and in subtraction borrow problems at a very young age, is through support. Now that support could necessarily need not be you telling them that you have to borrow, but it comes with blocks, it comes with a lot of other support mechanisms. There are sticks we can use, there are beads we can use, then there are blocks available online that you can use, mathematic kits. I have that somewhere, I cannot see, so I'll probably take some time to get it for you and show what kind of um, support material that you can build for children to be able to do that better. Okay, so let's quickly look at how you take your class forward. So within scaffolding, what is best is I do. So you model making thinking visible, because we want children to understand. It's one thing to tell them this is how I am doing it. Oh, sorry, this is what needs to be done. But then it's a completely different thing to tell them how I did it. So that is extremely important. Scaffolding requires you to share with them your thinking process. It's also known as building metacognitive skills among children. And then moving on from I do to we do, where you do a lot of guided practice, shared thinking, encourage peer learning, because children learn best from each other. That kind of scaffolding is extremely important. So I do is where you are modeling, not just modeling, but modeling for them to be able to understand the metacognition involved. And we do, where they are doing with the help of each other, and you're also prompting. Then you do together as a completely dependent on students, and then independent learning, where you where they are independently capable of transferring learning to different contexts. So there is one thing that I learned a concept, but where am I going to use that concept? The concept of addition, multiplication, for example, or uh, I'm learning how to write letters, but where am I writing letters these days? So the grade 7 8 students actually question that we do not write letters. That would eventually lead them to, or even you, for you to teach them writing emails, that can provide that bridge where they question and where they kind of try to find answers to why they're doing something that they're doing. Okay, so now, how would these different aspects look like? So when you are doing, for example, uh, for a grade 2 word problem, so first I underline the numbers. Now I decide the operation, so whether it is subtraction, multiplication, division, based on the problem. So this is how you can start explaining. Okay, so when you are introducing the concept, when you are in the middle of that concept, once you've stopped teaching that concept, and it's time to assess what kind of input you are going to provide for them to be able to perform their best. Often what happens is children know, but they need that little bit of extra support to be able to perform to the best of their abilities. That's where scaffolding comes in. So almost all of your formative assessments, this is when you're starting teaching a concept. So for case, in languages, not just English, I am predicting that this story is going to be about a man, or a wolf who is going to eat these animals up. And eventually when you read the story, you realize that wolf was friends and with the animals, and animals were celebrating the wolf's birthday. Something, the story is completely different, but you are predicting it in a way, and then you're encouraging children eventually for the next few stories that you're going to take up, how to do prediction. And when we predict, what kind of tools are we getting dependent on? Generally the idea of a wolf is always more bloody, always animalistic, aggressive. Can we question that? Those kind of things. So if I really want them to question, I need to also establish how my thinking is shaped. Why would I predict the story in a certain way? All right. So moving forward, now there are a lot of think aloud tools which are very powerful tools. So when you're teaching sciences, for example, uh, you already know that a particular concepts require a lot of constant support, or this concept is not getting clarified to children. So you can then think aloud. Okay, I am a bit confused. So children feel that you are not their superior. Scaffolding, the basic principle of scaffolding is also about ensuring that children do not consider you as the sacrosanct authority in the classroom. You should be somebody who knows more than them, because obviously you're older, but you are like them, you're also learning. So give them an example of how you reorient your thoughts. So whether it's about rereading the diagram, eavesdropping on expert thinking. Now eavesdropping on expert thinking could be related to providing them with audiovisual support, or you explaining, or if they're working in a group, somebody else explains it to them. In social sciences, try to get them into critical thinking, analytical thinking, evaluative thinking. That yes, I do agree with this point, but I am questioning the reason behind why this must have taken place. Is there any evidence that proves this particular stance? In social sciences also, we are constantly looking for proofs and evidences and sources, right? So that becomes extremely important. And then in art, when you're taking art and craft, especially for primary grades, I'm choosing this color because it shows a mood, a certain setting. Gray, if I'm choosing gray, why I chose gray. If I am using yellow, why I'm using yellow. Those kinds of input, especially in the early classes, especially your foundational stage and your preparatory stages, it's extremely important that you provide that kind of scaffolding to children. Similarly, for mathematics fractions, what should we do first? Why not multiply here? These kind of things, you know, you can use these starters and these prompters in the middle. Then for teaching languages, whether it is Hindi or grammar, how do we know? You know, sentences, it's a grammar sentence. The boy dash playing, was playing or is playing, so how do we know which word to use? Why did we use a particular word? And grammar, for example, now the example is of grammar, and I must insist that please teach grammar in context. Do not teach grammar separately, in the sense that do not make it distinct or a separate unit that needs to be taught in silos. Try to connect it with the text that they're doing. I am sure the textbooks that you're using definitely already have the in-text aspect. If it doesn't, try to establish that connection yourself, because that's the biggest scaffold that you can provide to your students while teaching grammar, irrespective of the subject. Because if it's linked to the story or the poem or a non-fiction chapter that you're using already using, or you can fall back on or refer to, it becomes extremely helpful for children to place grammar, which is the pragmatics aspect, and make connections of that grammar, that syntax, with semantics of the language, how we make sense of the world using language. You can use a lot of sentence starters as scaffolds, stems. So for English, for example, I think this happened because, or I think a particular X character hurt the other character because, and then there is this reason, or why he or she must have helped, and then there is this long reason for that. Then in sciences, this experiment shows this, however that experiment shows something else. So what could be the difference between these two experiments? Then for social sciences, this law is important. Now these are a few sentence starters. However, after few lessons in this, in every grade, you know, when you start teaching, it becomes important, and when you are scaffolding, becomes important during revision. In the middle, a lot of independent work is necessary. Now as I see that the exams are already starting, but I'm not sure if you are conducting your primary grades and middle grades examination now, or a bit later than this, but it's important to provide that kind of scaffold during revision and when you're introducing the concept, because these are the key points in their learning cycle, where initially they are starting and they need support in how to learn. And at the end of the year, at the end of the session, before they move on to the next class, so your scaffolding helps them to sort of, the kind of scaffolds you will provide will be different, but it sort of kind of consolidates their learning and helps them to make sense of what all they have learned over this session, you know. And that kind of experience where you can make sense of what you've learned over a period of time and how you've learned that over a period of time, makes learning more tangible and more available to them. Okay. Another very interesting strategy, especially for social sciences or revision for any subject, is a fishbowl strategy, where there are two circles, inner circle and an outer circle. You can conduct this activity in multiple inner and outer circles, or you can have, if your class size is smaller, let's say if you have 30 to 40 students, so 20 students inside, so you form two circles, inside and outside. Now when they're doing this, so one circle moves. So if the inside circle moves, they will always have different partners while interacting. And you can have a quiz ready where they are talking to each other and finding answers to those questions that you will raise. You can use this as an excellent revision strategy, or as well as excellent uh, concept beginning strategy. So if you want them to focus on writing, building writing tasks, and you want them to brainstorm and be ready what all aspects they can cover, so your topic could be, should rules be strict, for example. Now benefits of using this is, it's very low risk, high thinking, and peer scaffolding. So they all talk to at least 3 to 4 or 5 people in the circle, and you're managing the entire class in one go, and they would have a few ideas, right? You can be part of the circle if required, and then at least children who are talking to you will also get an additional idea. So, as an additional scaffold, you can be part of it. Alternatively, fishbowl can be played. It's an excellent strategy for social science textbooks for social sciences, because you can ask them to talk about different wars, if we are talking history, different resources, different geographical locations, climates, and so every group, so there can be, you can divide the class into different groups, and they all discuss few things. So I'm sure that geography related topics can be dealt very well. Even I would say, even for science, we can use it for units on, let's say, ecosystems and climate. And then they come, so from each group, a few children will come together in the center of the classroom, while the others stay outside, you know, listening to the discussion that will happen in the center of the classroom. So that's a fishbowl strategy. And then you can give them higher order questions, things that need to be evaluated, then they discuss, and it almost is the entire class is listening to those instructions. And you can, so I do understand, as a teacher myself, I've taught for many years, I do understand that managing the classroom can become difficult. So you can have a few tasks assigned to the children standing outside. You can tell them that whatever discussion is happening, all of you have to note down 3 points or 4 points, or whatever the way you have organized, because it's not just students doing everything by themselves. You are kind of leading them, facilitating them. So you can give them that in advance, and they already know what to listen for, right? And this becomes an excellent low risk strategy. Then there are other games, we play a game which is called hot seat. In that particular task, any topic related word vocabulary, teaching of vocabulary can be done. So you write the, like I'm sitting on a chair, the child sits in front of the class, and then there is a word written on the blackboard. The children can read the word. Now they have to tell 5 to 10 statements for this child to be able to elicit that word from this child. So what they do is they give statements, and it cannot be a yes no statement or a direct meaning related to that particular word, but more contextual learning. And that also becomes a very good game for them to sort of either build a pre vocabulary set or a post for pre assessment type of a task. Okay. Then you can use a lot of graphic organizer for visual scaffolds. So for writing and literacy, you can have story maps with beginning, middle, and end. That helps. A fading move could be, you provide blank organizers or student created organizers. You provide them with story maps and then ask them to create different story maps. In sciences and social sciences, flowcharts, life cycles, different timelines, they can all be present in the classroom for them to depend on, to fall back on while they're revising. I'm talking more in with respect to revisions, because I understand that it's the end of the session, children are going for their exams, but they can also be very interesting tools to begin your teaching in the next session. So flowcharts, life cycles, timelines, cause effect, compare contrast tables. So compare contrast tables can also be very interesting while teaching scaffold techniques. So you are focusing more on, let's say, uh, different processes, let's say, or different types of climates or resources of two places. So if your compare contrast table is right there, it becomes very easy for children to focus on what you are saying. What happens is, often while listening or while doing extensive reading, especially with the social sciences, those extensive reading, it doesn't register for the child. As it is, we have moved into a world where we are dependent on different AI models for even writing. We moved from handwritten to more of a system or a computer written text. Now we don't even want to do that. So everywhere there are voice supports. So for children to, in this world where everything is reduced to specific number of characters, it becomes extremely important to provide them with these kind of visual scaffolds, because for them and for you to sustain their interest over a longish text, an extensive text, which requires you to explain a little. For example, in my case, I am doing a lot of talking. So what I am depending on is a few nice visuals on screen that you may find interesting, or you may find questioning, how is this related to whatever this she is talking. Doesn't matter. And I'm also trying to be a bit more animated than I'm usually am, because it sort of helps your listeners to be engaged with you, right? So it's extremely important that you use such graphic organizers in the classroom. Like I said, pre-teaching vocabulary really helps. So if students don't know the word, they can't think deeply. So for example, water cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Now you start teaching them without them knowing the meaning of this word in grade 2, grade 3, they would be at a loss. But if you have done a few activities, so for example, if it's a science class, let's say grade 2, grade 3, whenever you're teaching water cycle, right? If you simply show them by boiling water that water vapor is rising, it you provide them with that visual and vocabulary input. This is evaporation. Provide them an example of condensation. All you have to do is a very chilled bottle, keep it in the classroom, and there are water droplets. What we do is we often tell them to go and observe this at their home. Half the time it doesn't happen, right? That scaffold, it's required from your end. We think that giving them instructions is sufficient. It's not, because then you are leaving it on the child to do it by themselves, and especially in the younger grades, often that goes that doesn't really happen. So we need to do that. We need to provide them. And showing precipitation is also not that big of a task. It can be done with evaporation. The minute you do evaporation and you like hold a lid to it, obviously the water will precipitate. So it becomes very easy and quick for the child to understand with a quick demonstration. So on one hand, it's using TLM. On the other hand, and all of these things are interlinked. There is no strict boundary when it comes to teaching. We often think in terms of strict boundaries. Okay, what would be scaffolding, what would be TLM, what would be, so it's all interlinked. Also, once you have taught this, now certain children more confident, certain children are not as confident. Now they may need support with the written word also. They may need support, visual support with respect to a diagram also. And they may need you to tell them in a different language. So we have children who are at different levels of language. And your schools might be English medium, but there may be children who all they need is just a shift of language. They may want you to talk to them bilingually, or provide them with certain words which are from their home language. So we are all for multilingual education, and multilingualism, bringing multilingualism within the I would say within the overall framework of science education or social science education can work wonders, especially in the younger classrooms, because it not only helps in scaffolding the concept that you're providing, but it also helps in connecting different dots and taking ownership of their learning, because they find acceptance of their identity. Language is directly linked to identity. They find acceptance of their identities in the classroom within the confines of the discipline you are dealing with them. So that becomes very important, right? Then of course there are different methods: pictures, gestures, quick oral sentences, etc. And yeah, so then they do things independently. So for example, maths, there's a new word problem with same structure but no hints. So you want them to transfer their learning, new topic using same rubric but no starters. Now this is one example is from mathematics, the other is from languages, so this is how you reduce the support. That's what I meant. So another, the most missed step of fading support is support must reduce while independence increases. It cannot be either or. Remove word banks, remove the checklist, remove frames, then reflect with students. Which support are your students over dependent on? Are they over dependent on audio visuals or organizers, or you explaining them something, or are they over dependent on their peers? So you'll have to take care of all of that as you provide support. uh, Now, there are certain common scaffolding mistakes that we all make. We do a bit of over explaining or helping for too long. Then we confuse scaffolding with spoon feeding. Scaffolding does not mean that you provide them with an entire answer. Scaffolding is helping them to arrive at the expected response. So it's not about you providing them with that uh, expected response, or to provide them the easy way to reach that expected response, but help in terms of how to be able to arrive at that expected response. Then it has to be planned. So it needs to be planned, and it needs to be a gradual release of responsibility. Also important is to understand that scaffolding is different from differentiation. Children at different levels in our classrooms. So scaffolding, now if you look at the goal of scaffolding stays same for all the children. But in differentiation meaning, um, children are at a at very different levels, or children with special needs, but you want them to be but you want them to participate in all the classroom activities. So the goal of the activity or the concept or the unit you're doing shifts. But with when in scaffolding, the goal remains same. Duration of scaffolding is temporary. For differentiation, it will continue, it is ongoing. If a child requires special support, it will be an ongoing thing. There will be different worksheets. In scaffolding, the worksheet for students will not be different, it will be the same. So you need to be very very clear that scaffolding is not differentiated teaching. uh, in scaffolding focuses on the process. Differentiation focuses on the level of students. In scaffolding, the focus is on how I am teaching more than what is the level of my learners. But in differentiation, the level is important, and accordingly you will change instruction. But in scaffolding, it is something that you're going to provide to all the students, irrespective of the level they are at. So that distinction is extremely important. And unfortunately, what happens is we also think that scaffolding somewhere means that we need to provide, so for student a particular worksheet or practice sheet is provided, but for a student C a completely different worksheet is. That's not scaffolding, that's differentiation. Scaffolding is providing similar input to all these students. A rapid I'm just sharing this plan with you, a rapid lesson redesign activity where you have an I do thing, a we do thing, a you do thing, and you do alone thing. you know Another interesting support that you can provide your students is using Freer model. Using Freer model has, like, as you can see on your screens, we have, it's kind of a graphic organizer, but it is specific and specialized, works very well with languages or social sciences or even sciences. So in the center there comes the term, the word, and the teacher selects that word. It's an important concept to be learned. You want children to learn this, and it can be connected with other related terms, right? And on one corner, on the left hand corner, children write a student friendly definition or description of it. Then they write, on the bottom left corner, they write examples, synonyms or concrete applications or relevant illustrations. On the top right corner, they write
Ma'am,
characteristics. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. The
Mhm.
currently what is scaffolding is showing. Slide number 3 is visible to us.
Oh, okay. Why did that happen? I'll just share again. Sorry.
Okay.
I wish you had told this to me earlier.
All the slides were visible, like Frame model was not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, as you can see, top right corner, top left corner, and so on and
Yes,
so
ma'am.
forth.
Yes.
Okay, so characteristics on the top right corner that help students recognize, identify, or distinguish the term. And then there can be non examples, which again is very important because what a term is as important is knowing what that term doesn't entail, you know. So that is extremely important, works very well when you have completed a chapter to consolidate that learning. It becomes very relevant, and this can be very relevant for you to, in case revision is going on in your schools, very helpful in revisions, brainstorming. Let's look at a couple of examples. So for very young grades, see how this works for languages. So if the concept is noun and you've already touched upon it in different ways, children write the definition of noun, they write the examples, they write different characteristics of nouns, and then they write non examples, right? I hope this sort of clarifies what this is. And let's look at it from the concept of mathematics. See, this is the concept is polygon, then they write definition, they draw examples. So what is interesting is to understand that even Frere model can be used differently. They need not write everything, they can draw, they can use pictures, they can use different symbols, because it sort of becomes a scaffold for their own learning. So this comes in very handy as scaffolds for going back, learning, relearning. This is an example for social sciences ecosystem. So definition, characteristics, non examples, examples, it becomes very easy to kind of not just for revision, but it becomes a very good scaffold for you to help your students review and revise the concept. Anyway, now let's quickly look at key scaffolds that you can provide in each individual subject. So, for languages, think aloud, sentence starters, graphic organizers, vocabulary walls. And these are a few that I am sharing and suggesting you. It is not limited to what I have shared over this session so far, right? So whether you use hot seat, or whether you use um, fishbowl, or whether you use Frere model, or any of the think aloud, sentence starters, graphic organizers, and these are for, again, these cannot be different for different students. It is going to be the same for your class. It is not differentiated. Scaffolding is not differentiated instruction. Maths, worked examples, visual models, peer support, real life applications, sciences, vocabulary, diagrams, demonstrations, guided observations. For social sciences, fishball, guiding questions, Socratic seminars, timelines and visual cues, comparative frames. For arts and EVS, modeling, choice, visual prompts, guided reflections. Okay, so of all the things that we have discussed so far today, I would now request, what would you like to do in your class? Any, it could be any one small activity you would like to introduce, or anything new that you would like to try in your classroom after today's long monologue that I have been talking on and on about. So please share it in the chat box. Prayer model, fishbowl. Okay, interesting. Prayer model, fishbowl and hot seat. EV's journaling, observation of surroundings. Okay, hot seat, fishbowl. Yeah, yeah, yeah. These will come in very handy when you do it. Great, fantastic. Okay, so And as you're thinking of what you would like to try and take forward, it's important for us as teachers to know when to step back, because great teachers know when to step back and let children do and move forward on their own. So thank you for your dedication to student independence and deeper learning. Good teachers support learning, great teachers know when to step back. And I'm sure you all are already doing a wonderful job in your classrooms, because a teacher is the king or queen of their classroom. And the love that we get from students is unparalleled wherever we are. So, thank you, everyone. And now let's open the session for discussion in case you want any clarification.
Participants, if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the chat box so that ma'am can take them up.
Thank you all for your comments and your responses. I see somebody's hand is raised. Please type your question. I think
Ma'am, there's one question: how to help the slow learners?
for that it will be a completely different session on inclusive education. So, like I said, this is what we fail to understand is that, though even though I am responding to your question in a limited way, but first of all you need to identify whether the learner is actually slow, and you need help with your school counselor for labeling that child as slow learner, because it's a label, and we all live in a world where we find it very convenient and very easy to label others, which we need to, be a bit wary of, and we need to take a step back. So if you really think, you and your counselor really think that there is some issue, then you need to identify the issue, whether it's dysgraphia or dyslexia, or what the real issue is with the child. If, because on a scale also, all these are on different scales, these learning, I won't call disabilities, but um, so the child, if the child needs special requirements, then it will be, the instruction will be different, and your expectations from the child will also be different. Even though eventually the child will be taking the same exam, but the way you will teach the child, the number of concepts that you will be doing, it falls into a very, very different category then altogether.
Ma'am, there's one more. Can we have list of strategies?
You could have taken a screenshot when I was sharing those. uh, I don't have a ready-made list with me. I can share my screen again if you want.
Sure, ma'am, that will work, I guess.
Though the list does not include Frere model, and so this was the subject wise scaffolds that I suggest and are helpful. Along with this, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So along with this, you can use Frere model. Oh, thank you, Rajeshwari ji, for sharing the screenshot. Uh, Along with this, you can use Frere models, fishball, inner circle, outer circle, hot seat. Then there are a lot of. So just give me 1 second, okay? I'm turning off my video.
Participants, we'll share the feedback form link on Monday.
Okay. So like I was telling you, for mathematics teachers, now there are blocks. These are individual blocks. I use them with my son, whether it's the place value concept or carryover borrowing. Now these are individual blocks. These are 10 blocks in one, then 100, right? This is a block of 100, and then this is a block of 1000. Mm, hmm. If you, so these kind of supports for mathematics come in very handy. um, this is one way that you can help improve your classroom. Anything else?
Mm. Ma'am, there is one more. How to gain interest of students when they are listening to teacher.
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Yeah, how to gain interest of students when they are listening to the teacher.
If they're already listening, then why do you need more interest for? I mean, probably you are saying that how to gain their interest when they're not listening to the teacher. Then you need to change the way you're teaching, in the sense that probably your class requires some kind of physical movement. If it is a consistent problem, then you need the help with the student school counselor. But if it is on a particular day or a particular subject, then probably scaffolding in a different way, use of audio visuals, helping them move, more kinesthetic activities, more game based, quiz based activities will really elevate their interest levels in the classroom. uh, but if it is there for all the subjects throughout the day, then probably there are some other underlying issues and you need to discuss with the school counselor. But
Okay,
there are
ma'am.
various ways of making the classroom interesting. Get them to do stuff, give them the reins, and then see, they'll be more than interested in teaching you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for a truly insightful and engaging session. Your perspectives on scaffolding have deepened our understanding of how thoughtful support can lead to meaningful and independent learning. Today's session equipped us with practical strategies to guide learners with intention, strengthen comprehension, and promote deeper engagement in the classroom. Let's carry these insights forward as we continue to empower our students and refine our teaching practices. A heartfelt thank you to all our educators who joined us today. Your active participation and commitment beautifully reflected the spirit of Padalti Shiksha Badalte Shikshak. And we are not done yet. Up next at 4:30 p.m., join us for our next session, Competency-Based Education, Redefining Learning Outcomes. Once again with Ms. Deepthi Chawla, followed by the quiz, where you stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth up to rupees 5,000. So stay with us, stay inspired, and we'll continue shortly. Thank you, ma'am. See you soon.
Thank you, bye.